Juan Kim stood in front of the massive crystal doors and tried not to shake. He wore his best formal uniform, the one with Earth's united flag on the shoulder. Next to him, Una Park held her datapad so tight her knuckles were white. Inside that small device was everything humanity wanted to tell the galaxy about themselves, their history, their culture, their hopes for friendship among the stars. The doors opened without a sound. The chamber beyond was enormous, bigger than any stadium Juan had ever seen on Earth. Hundreds of alien beings sat in curved rows that went up and up until they disappeared into shadows. Some had scales, some had fur, some were just clouds of glowing gas held inside force fields. Juan had studied the files, but seeing them all together made his breath catch in his throat. At the center of the room sat the High Arbiter. His name was Veln, and he looked like a giant snake covered in beautiful silver scales. His species, the Velkari, had started this council 50,000 years ago. 50,000 years. Humanity had barely invented writing 5,000 years ago. Juan walked forward. His footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. Every alien eye, and some things that were not quite eyes, watched him. Una followed close behind. They reached the center platform, and Juan cleared his throat. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," he began. His voice sounded small in the huge space. "I am Ambassador Juan Kim of Earth. We come in peace and friendship. We hope to learn from you and perhaps, one day, to share what we have learned." He nodded to Una. She activated the datapad, and holographic images appeared in the air. Earth, blue and beautiful, spinning slowly. Then came the information humanity had prepared so carefully. Their population was 8 billion. Their technology was young but growing. They had split the atom, traveled to their moon, and now reached for the stars. "Our planet is called Earth," Juan continued. "We live in the Sol system, in the Orion arm of the galaxy. We have much to learn, but we are eager students." The moment he said Sol system, everything changed. The silence that fell was not the polite quiet of diplomacy. It was the silence of shock, of fear, of something very wrong. High Arbiter Veln's silver scales turned pale, almost white. Around the chamber, aliens began moving frantically. Some were typing on devices, others were making sounds that the translation devices could not interpret, probably because they were sounds of panic. A being that looked like a giant insect, all clicking mandibles and trembling antennae, stood up suddenly. Its voice came through the translator as a high-pitched buzz. "Sol, the Forbidden Star, it is. T. It is. Veln leaned forward, his voice shook. "You said Sol system. The star we call Hell. You come from Hell 3? Una stepped forward, confused. "I'm sorry, there must be a translation error. Our planet is called Earth. We've never heard of Hell 3. A new voice spoke. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. A creature floated down from the upper levels. It looked like a brain inside a tank of glowing gel. "I am Morth, Chief Historian of the Council. There is no translation error. Your star's true name, the name in our oldest records, is Hell, the Forge of Nightmares. And the third planet orbiting that star was quarantined 300,000 years ago. Nothing was meant to survive there." "Well," end quote. Juan felt cold. "Quarantined? By whom? Why?" But Morth did not answer. Around the chamber, red lights began flashing. Alien security forces, wearing armor and carrying weapons, appeared at every exit. They were not pointing their weapons at anyone yet, but the message was clear. Una grabbed Juan's arm. "What's happening?" Veln raised one long, scaled arm. His voice boomed through the chamber. "Security protocol, Omega. Lock down all exits. No one leaves this station. And someone get me the progenitor files. All of them. Everything about the Hell Project." "The Hell Project?" Juan asked. "What is that?" But no one answered him. The council members were too busy shouting at each other, their voices mixing into a chaos of fear and anger. Some were demanding that the humans be imprisoned immediately. Others were calling for their ships to be destroyed. A few, a very few, were calling for calm, for answers before action. Through the noise, Juan heard one word repeated over and over in different languages, different voices. Death world. They were calling Earth a death world. 2 security guards, members of a species with blue skin and 4 arms, approached Juan and Yuna. "Please come with us," one said. The translator made the words polite, but the weapons in their hands made the meaning clear. This was not a request. They were led through corridors that had been beautiful and welcoming just an hour ago. Now they felt like the passages of a prison. Other aliens moved out of their way, staring at them with fear or hatred or both. One small creature, covered in soft pink fur, made a gesture that the translator identified as a ward against evil. The guards took them to a room with transparent walls. It was furnished like a nice hotel room, but there was no door handle on the inside. Outside, more guards took positions. Juan could see them setting up weapons on tripods, weapons pointed at the room. "We're prisoners," Yuna said quietly. Before Juan could answer, his communicator buzzed. It was Tae Choi, their linguist, who had stayed on their shuttle. "Juan, I've been monitoring all channels. I need to tell you something. That name they used, Hell 3. I ran it through every linguistic database I have. The root word, in the progenitor language, doesn't just mean hell like a bad place. It translates more accurately as the crucible of death, or the third hell. Whatever this place is, whatever they think Earth is, they're terrified of it." Juan looked out at the guards, at their weapons, at the fear in their alien eyes. Somewhere in this station, the Council was deciding humanity's fate. And from the panic he had seen, Juan was not sure the decision would be mercy. "Tae," he said quietly, "send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we might have a problem." Outside their transparent prison, more security forces arrived. Through the walls, Juan could hear alarms starting to sound. The translator picked up fragments of announcement. "Defense grid active. Unknown vessels approaching. Authorization required." Yuna stood and looked at the scanner on her datapad. Her face went pale. "Juan, there's a ship coming. A human ship. The military escort Earth Command sent." Juan felt his stomach drop. The escort was just supposed to be ceremonial, a show of respect, but if the Council was already afraid, if they already thought humans were dangerous, then a military ship arriving would look like exactly one thing: an invasion. "Get them on comms," Juan said urgently. "Tell them to stay back, to not approach the station." Yuna worked frantically at her datapad. "The Council is jamming all frequencies. I can't get through." 1. Through the transparent walls, Juan watched as massive weapons emerged from hidden panels in the station's hull. They tracked toward a point in space where nothing was visible yet. But soon, very soon, a human ship would appear there. A ship with weapons, with soldiers, with all the wrong optics, at exactly the wrong time. The Council had called Earth the Forge of Nightmares. And now, through simple misunderstanding and bad timing, humanity was about to prove them right. Juan pressed his hand against the transparent wall and prayed that someone, somewhere, would stop what was about to happen. But the weapons continued to track, the alarms continued to sound, and in the distance, he could see the first flash of light that meant a ship was dropping out of faster-than-light travel. The escort had arrived, and humanity's first contact was about to become humanity's first war. Captain Daesong stared at his display screen and wondered if this was some kind of test. His ship, the Harmony, was just a small frigate. It carried defensive weapons and a crew of 120 people. They were here for a ceremony. To make humanity's first meeting with aliens more official and respectful. Instead, his sensors were screaming warnings. The Council Station's entire defense grid was active and pointed at him. "Captain," Lieutenant Rena Bay said from the communications station. Her voice was very steady, which Day appreciated. "We're being hailed. Multiple channels. They're demanding our immediate surrender." Day looked at his modest ship. It had taken Earth 40 years to build this vessel. It was the pride of Earth's fleet, but compared to what his sensors were showing him, the Council's weapons, it was nothing. A rowboat facing battleships. "Invasion force?" he repeated. "Rena, open a channel. All frequencies. Tell them we are here for ceremonial purposes only. We mean no harm." "Already tried, sir. They're not responding to our hails." "Wait." Rena's hands flew across her console. "Sir, I'm getting a tight beam message. It's from Ambassador Kim. He says we need to power down all weapons and drift. Do not make any aggressive moves. He says the Council thinks we're here to attack them." Day felt cold. That's insane. Why would they think that? But he gave the order anyway. The Harmony's weapons powered down. The ship's engines reduced to minimum. They drifted, helpless, while Council weapons tracked their every movement. Inside the transparent prison on the station, Juan watched the Harmony appear on the long-range displays. Relief flooded through him when he saw the ship power down. Day understood. Good. But the relief did not last. The Council security forces were not standing down. If anything, more were arriving. And through the walls, Juan could hear shouting. The Council was arguing about what to do. Then the door to their prison room opened. Not the security guards. Instead, a being that looked like a tall mammal, with soft gray fur, stood in the doorway. She wore robes marked with symbols Juan did not recognize. "I am Ambassador Kirina of the Filori," she said quickly. "Some of us want to hear your side before the warmongers take control. Come. Now." Juan and Yuna exchanged glances. This could be a trick. But staying in this room, while the Council debated, their fate was not working either. They followed Kirina. She led them through service corridors, away from the main areas. They passed other aliens, who looked at them with curiosity or fear. Finally, they reached a small chamber. Inside, a handful of Council members waited. They looked worried but not hostile. "Speak quickly." It was a being that seemed to be made of crystals and light. "I am Elder Thane of the Urtal. We are telepaths. We will know if you lie. Tell us what humanity truly is." Juan took a breath. Where to start? How to explain humans to aliens who thought Earth was hell? Before he could speak, Morth materialized through the wall. The historian entity pulsed with urgency. "I broke into the deepest archives. The ones sealed after the Progenitor War. You need to see this." Holographic images filled the room. Ancient images, fragmentary and damaged by time. They showed a galaxy controlled by beings of impossible power. The progenitors. They had built wonders, seeded life across 1,000,000 worlds, guided evolution like gardeners tending plants. 300,000 years ago, Morth explained. The progenitors conducted experiments. Most were benign, but one was different. They created the Hell system, a star surrounded by worlds, deliberately made hostile to life. The image shifted to show a planet. The third planet from its sun. The continents looked different, but Juan recognized it immediately. Earth. They engineered this world to be the ultimate challenge. Morth continued. Crushing gravity by galactic standards. Violent tectonic activity. Extreme temperature swings. A corrosive oxygen atmosphere. Massive predators. Frequent extinction events. They wanted to answer a question. What kind of life would evolve if survival required maximum aggression, maximum adaptability, maximum intelligence? Yuna shook her head. That's not hell. That's home. Yes, Earth is challenging, but your gravity is 1.3 times standard. Elder Thane interrupted. His telepathic voice was gentle, but firm. I can feel your thoughts, human Una. I can sense your memories. You climbed mountains for recreation. You dived to crushing depths in your oceans for fun. Your ancestors hunted animals 10 times their size with primitive spears. You domesticated wolves. Pack predators. You made them into pets. Morth showed more images. Human history played out in holographic light. Ancient humans chasing prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. Human tribes, surviving ice ages, volcanic winters, plagues, humans fighting each other with bronze and steel and nuclear fire, then somehow finding peace anyway. The progenitors vanished during a war, Morth said. They left the Hell Project running. When our ancestors found the records, they quarantined the system immediately, because according to their calculations, anything that evolved on Hell 3 would be unstoppable, not because of weapons or technology, but because survival itself would be coded into your genes. You would never, could never, give up. Juan felt the weight of those words. He thought about human history, about the countless times humanity should have gone extinct, but did not, about the way humans could adapt to anything, survive anywhere, keep going when any rational being would surrender. The Council thinks we're weapons, he said quietly. Yes, Kirina confirmed. And the fact that you reached space, that you're here now, terrifies them. They're debating whether to destroy your planet before you spread across the galaxy. How long? Una asked. The vote happens in 12 hours, Elder Thane said, unless something changes their minds. Tay Choi's voice crackled over Juan's communicator. Ambassador, we have a bigger problem. I'm picking up an automated signal. Something in deep space just activated. The Council's sensors show it too. It's old, progenitor technology, and it's heading this way. Morth's gel tank rippled with what might have been fear. The Sentinel. The progenitors left defense satellites around the Hell system. If life from Hell 3 achieved spaceflight and left the system, the satellites would activate. They were programmed to evaluate any species that passed that milestone. Evaluate how? Juan demanded. By attempting to destroy them, Morth said simply. It's a test. Can the species that evolved from Hell defend not just themselves, but others? Will they fight to protect those who feared them? The chamber fell silent. Outside, alarms began to blare. The Council had detected the incoming threat. Juan's mind raced. They had 12 hours before the Council voted to destroy Earth. But now they had maybe 3 hours before some ancient weapon arrived to destroy the Council station. And on that station were Juan, Una, Tay, and thousands of aliens who had done nothing wrong except be afraid. His communicator buzzed. Captain Day's voice came through, tense but controlled. Ambassador, our sensors are tracking something big. Really big. The Council's fleet is scrambling, but I don't think they understand what they're facing. Sir, I'm looking at energy readings that shouldn't be possible. This thing makes our best weapons look like firecrackers. Can you fight it? Juan asked, though he already knew the answer. A long pause. No, sir. Not in a straight fight. But I've been reviewing the data. This satellite, it's old. Really old. Systems degrade over time. Even progenitor tech. If we're smart, if we're creative, maybe we can find a way. Juan looked at the Council members in the room, at Kirina, who had risked her position to bring them here, at Thane, who looked worried but not hostile, at Morth, who had broken into forbidden archives to show them the truth. You wanted to know what humanity is, Juan said. You wanted to know if we're weapons or monsters. Here's your answer. That satellite is coming to kill all of us. The Council, the station, my people, everyone. And my instinct, the instinct coded into me by 300,000 years on that hell planet, is not to run. It's to protect. He activated his communicator. Captain Day, I need you to do something crazy. I need you to position the harmony between that satellite and this station. I need you to buy time while Earth sends reinforcements. Sir, that's suicide. The harmony can't stand up to that thing. I know, Juan said. But we're humans. Day. We don't know how to quit. And right now, thousands of beings are on this station. Beings with families, with children, with lives worth saving. We're going to save them. Another pause. Then Day's voice came back, steady and sure. Understood, Ambassador. Harmony will hold the line. And sir? Tell Sola, I love her. Tell my kids, Daddy's doing something important. The communication cut off. Through the windows of the chamber, Juan could see the Harmony's engines light up. The small frigate moved to intercept the incoming weapon. One tiny ship against ancient doom. Kirina stepped forward. Why? Why would you sacrifice yourselves for us? We imprisoned you. We threatened your world. Yuna answered, her voice soft but firm. Because that's what people do. Not weapons. Not monsters. People. We protect each other. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Elder Thane's telepathic voice resonated through the room. The council needs to see this. They need to see humans choosing to protect those who feared them. Come. They ran through the corridors. The small group of council members and 2 humans. Behind them, Morth accessed the station's communication systems and broadcast everything to every screen, every display on the station. The council members, scattered throughout the station in panic, stopped and watched. They watched a small human ship position itself in front of ancient weapons. They watched Captain Day broadcast a message. This is Captain Day, Song of Earth. To all council ships, evacuate to minimum safe distance. The Harmony will engage the threat. And they watched as a message came from Earth Command, faster than physics should allow because Earth had been monitoring everything. 7 vessels en route to Harmony's position. ETA. 40 minutes. Codename, Stand Fast. Hold the line, Harmony. Earth is coming. On the council station, in chambers and corridors and meeting rooms, aliens looked at each other. The humans were not running. They were not saving themselves. They were standing between the nightmare weapon and everyone else. This is what evolved from the Forge of Nightmares. Elder Thane broadcast to the entire council. Not conquerors. Guardians. But the satellite was still coming. And 40 minutes might as well have been 40 hours. The real test was just beginning. Aboard the Harmony, Rena Bay watched her sensor screen and felt her mouth go dry. The progenitor satellite was massive. Not physically huge, but the energy readings coming from it were beyond anything in the database. It was like comparing a candle to the sun. Captain, she said, keeping her voice level through sheer force of will. That thing could vaporize us with a single shot. We won't even slow it down. Day nodded. He stood at the center of the bridge, hands clasped behind his back. He looked calm. Rena wondered how he did it. Probably true. So, we won't try to slow it down. We'll annoy it instead. Sir, think about it. That satellite has been asleep for 300,000 years. Its AI is going to be running diagnostics, checking systems, calculating optimal firing solutions. We're going to make those calculations as complicated as possible. He turned to the helm officer. Woo! Plot an erratic course. Random acceleration changes every 30 seconds. Make us unpredictable. Aye, Captain. One unpredictable course coming up. Day opened a channel to the entire crew. All hands, this is the captain. I won't lie to you. That thing out there can destroy us easily. But it has to target us first. And targeting takes time. Calculation time. Processing time. Every second we make it recalculate is 1 more second for help to arrive. Earth is sending 7 ships. We just need to last 40 minutes. Can we do that? From stations all over the small ship, Voices called back. Yes, sir. Affirmative. We can do this. Rena felt a lump in her throat. They all knew the odds. They were choosing to do this anyway. On the council station, Juan stood in the main observation chamber. Half the council was there now, watching the displays that showed the Harmony facing down the satellite. The other half were still arguing about what to do. But at least they had stopped pointing weapons at humans. This is foolish, one council member said. It was a being made of crystallized gas, its voice whistling through the translators. The humans cannot win. They will die for nothing. Not nothing, Elder Thane said quietly. His telepathic voice carried weight. They die to give us time to evacuate. Time to run. They die so we might live. High Arbiter Veln coiled his massive serpentine body. His scales had regained some of their color. He looked shaken but thoughtful. I have led the council for 200 years. I have seen many species join us. I have never seen one willing to sacrifice themselves for strangers who imprisoned them. Kirina pulled up data on her console. I've been analyzing human history, their entertainment, their stories. Do you know what theme appears over and over? Heroes who stand between danger and innocence. Beings who sacrifice themselves so others can live. This isn't unusual for them. This is aspirational. This is what they teach their children to value. On the Harmony, the satellite opened fire. The beam of energy was visible even in the vacuum of space. A lance of blue-white light that could have carved a moon in half. But it missed. Barely. The Harmony's random course changes meant the satellite's perfect calculations were a microsecond off. Evasive worked, Wu shouted from the helm. Sir, we actually dodged it. Don't celebrate yet, Day said. It's learning. Next shot will compensate for our pattern. Change the pattern. The satellite fired again. Again, the Harmony dodged. But the beam was closer this time. Rena's console screamed warnings as the heat washed over their shields. Shields at 70%. One more hit like that and we're in trouble. Day studied the tactical display. The satellite was getting smarter with each shot. It was adapting. Soon, it would predict their movements perfectly. They needed something else. Rena, do we have any old satellites in this area? She checked. Yes, sir. Old Council navigation beacons. Decommissioned mining drones. Why? Because we're going to play hide and seek. He looked at the helm. Wu, take us into that debris field. Use the old beacons as cover. Make the satellite shoot through obstacles. It was a desperate plan. But desperate was all they had. The Harmony dove into a field of dead satellites and broken machinery. The progenitor weapon followed, firing with mechanical patience. Each shot had to be calculated around obstacles now. It added seconds to the targeting time. Seconds were lives. On the council station, a young technician called out. Sirs, I'm detecting incoming vessels. 7 ships, human design, arriving in formation. The main display shifted to show Earth's response. 7 ships, dropped out of faster-than-light, travel in perfect synchronization. They were all military vessels, and while they were small compared to Council dreadnoughts, they moved with deadly precision. The lead ship broadcast on all channels. This is Commander Un Lee of the Earth Destroyer Indomitable. Harmony, we've got your back. All ships, form perimeter delta. Let's show this old rust bucket what humans do best. Juan felt pride and fear mix in his chest. Pride because Earth had sent help. Fear because even 8 human ships could not match a progenitor weapon in raw power. But Captain Day's voice came through calm and clear. Welcome to the party, Indomitable. Hope you brought your dancing shoes. Yuna gripped Juan's arm. What are they doing? They should be evacuating the station. Not fighting. They're buying time, Morth said. The historian had been silent, observing everything. But I think they're doing more than that. Look at their formation. That's not an attack pattern. It's a geometric array. They're positioning themselves with mathematical precision. Elder Thane's eyes glowed brighter. They have a plan. I can sense it in the thoughts of the human captains. They're communicating without words, thinking in patterns and numbers. They're treating this like a puzzle to solve. High Arbiter Veln leaned forward. What kind of puzzle? The satellite cannot be destroyed by their weapons, Thane said. So, they're not going to try. They're going to trick it. They're going to make it destroy itself. In space, the 8 human ships began their dance. They did not fire at the satellite directly. Instead, they darted in and out, forcing it to track multiple targets. Each ship moved in a pattern that looked random but was actually calculated down to the millisecond. They were creating a 3-dimensional geometric web around the ancient weapon. This is insane, Rena muttered as the Harmony spun and rolled. Her stomach protested, but she ignored it. We're playing tag with a weapon that could sneeze us out of existence. Not tag, Day corrected. We're hurting it. Watch. The satellite, frustrated by targets it could not easily hit, began to increase its fire rate. It shot again and again. Each beam, missing by smaller margins. The humans were testing its limits, learning its patterns. Commander Un's voice crackled across the fleet channel. All ships, mark your positions. Day, you seeing what I'm seeing? Confirmed, Day said, studying his tactical display. The satellite's beam deflects when it hits our shield at this angle. It reflects like light on a mirror. Then let's make a hall of mirrors. All ships, final positions in 30 seconds. This is going to be tight. On the council station, thousands of beings held their breath. They watched as the 8 human ships moved into a perfect 3-dimensional formation around the satellite. Each ship was positioned at exactly calculated points. What are they doing? Veln demanded. Morth's gel tank pulsed rapidly. I understand. Oh, by the ancient stars, I understand. They're using physics. Simple, elegant physics. They're going to make the satellite's own weapon destroy it. The Harmony and 7 other human ships held their positions. They were so close to the satellite that its targeting systems were confused. Too close for optimal firing solutions. The ancient AI hesitated, recalculating. Now, Day commanded. All 8 ships fired at once. Not at the satellite. At specific points in space, at angles precisely calculated. Their weapons were nothing compared to the progenitor tech, but that was not the point. The satellite's AI detected the incoming fire and responded automatically. It fired its main weapon, the beam that could crack planets. But the beam hit the Harmony's shields at an exact angle. The shield did not stop the beam. It reflected it. The reflected beam hit the Indomitable's shields at another exact angle. Reflected again. Then to the next ship, and the next, each reflection amplifying the energy, focusing it, until the beam was bouncing between all 8 ships in a cascade of light and power. And then, following the geometric pattern the humans had created, all that reflected and amplified energy converged back on a single point, the progenitor satellite. For 3 seconds, the ancient weapon's AI tried to process what was happening. Its own weapon, reflected and amplified 8 times over, was hitting it from all sides at once. Its shields, designed to protect from external threats, could not handle the feedback loop. The satellite exploded. The blast was visible across half the system. When the light faded, 8 human ships drifted in space. They were damaged, their shields burned out, their hulls scorched. But they were intact. Silence filled the council station. Then, someone started to clap. Then, another. Within seconds, thousands of aliens were making whatever sounds their species used to show approval and awe. High Arbiter Veln's voice cut through the noise. They destroyed a progenitor weapon. With 8 small ships and mathematics. They made it destroy itself with its own power. Karina laughed, the sound full of wonder. They hunted it. Like their ancestors hunted megafauna on Earth. They studied it. Learned its patterns. and turned its strength into weakness. Elder Thane's telepathic voice resonated with something like joy. The progenitors would have been proud. The test was not about force. It was about intelligence, about creativity, about refusing to give up even when outmatched. Juan sagged against Yuna, relief flooding through him. They did it. They actually did it. But Morth pulsed urgently. Wait. The satellite is broadcasting something. A message. It's in the progenitor language. Every screen on the station suddenly displayed the same text, translating in real time. If you are hearing this, then the children of Hell 3 have reached the stars and passed our trial. The chamber fell silent again. Everyone stared at the screens as the message continued. You faced a weapon designed to destroy you. You protected those who feared you. You used intelligence over violence, creativity over force. You have passed the test. You are not weapons. You are guardians. More text scrolled across the screens. Coordinates. Locations of hidden progenitor facilities across the galaxy. Knowledge bases. Technology repositories. And something else. A map of death worlds. Thousands of them. Worlds like Earth where life struggled to survive in harsh conditions. You are not the first children of Hell, the message continued. You are the first who passed. Find the others. Protect them. Guide them. This is your inheritance. You are the guardians we could never be. The message ended. Juan looked at Yuna. She looked back at him. Around them, the council members stared at the humans with new eyes. Not fear anymore. Something else. Something like respect. Something like hope. Captain Day's voice came through the comm, tired but alive. Ambassador, the fleet is pretty beat up, but we're all still here. Did we pass the test? Juan smiled. Yeah, Day, we passed. Come on home. You've earned a rest. But even as he said it, Juan knew the rest would be brief. The progenitors had left them a galaxy full of death worlds, full of species, struggling to survive, full of beings who would need guidance, protection, friendship. Humanity had been alone in the dark for 300,000 years, not anymore. Now, they had a purpose. Now they had a family to find. The children of Hell 3 had found their calling. And the galaxy would never be the same. 3 weeks after the battle with the progenitor satellite, Juan sat in what used to be a prison cell, and was now one of the most important diplomatic offices in the galaxy. The transparent walls remained. But now they symbolized openness rather than confinement. Council members came and went, freely. And humans walked the station, without guards following them. Yuna entered carrying a stack of datapads, her expression a mix of exhaustion and excitement. You need to see this. Morth helped me cross-reference the progenitor database with the Council's stellar surveys. There are 47 death worlds within reasonable travel distance. And those are just the ones we know about. 47, Juan repeated. He thought about Earth, alone for so long, thinking they were unique. How many might have developed intelligent life? Unknown. But the progenitors' criteria for death worlds were harsh. Any world where survival required exceptional adaptation, high gravity, toxic atmospheres, extreme temperatures, aggressive megafauna. If life evolved there, it would be tough. Like us. A chime indicated someone at the door. Elder Thane floated in, his crystalline form pulsing with calm light. Juan and Yuna followed Thane to the main council chamber. It was the same room where Juan had first introduced humanity, but the atmosphere was completely different. Instead of fear, he felt curiosity and respect from the assembled beings. High Arbiter Veln uncurled his massive form. His scales were bright, silver again, healthy and strong. Ambassador Juan Kim. Of Earth. Humanity has proven itself in ways we did not expect. You faced our fear with patience. You faced our weapons with courage. Most importantly, you faced certain death by choosing to protect us rather than save yourselves. The Council has voted unanimously. Humanity is granted full membership, with all rights and privileges. Applause filled the chamber. But Veln raised a scaled hand for silence. However, membership alone is not enough. We wish to propose something unprecedented, a new organization, led by humanity but supported by the Council. We call it the Guardian Initiative. Kirina stepped forward, her gray fur perfectly groomed. The progenitors left you a map to death worlds. They left you their blessing to find and protect emerging species. We want to help. Our resources, our knowledge, our ships. We will provide support while humanity leads the exploration and first contact efforts. Juan felt the weight of it. Why us? Why not a joint leadership? Because you understand, Elder Thane said simply. His telepathic voice was warm. You evolved on Hell 3. You know what it means to struggle, to adapt, to survive against impossible odds. Other species on death worlds will need someone who understands their experience. Someone who will not look at them with fear, but with recognition. Yuna squeezed Juan's arm. He could see tears in her eyes. We accept, Juan said. But we'll need help. We've only been in space for a few decades. We have a lot to learn. And we have much to teach. Morth's voice echoed through the chamber. But first, there is someone who deserves recognition. The main display activated, showing Captain Day standing on the bridge of the Harmony. The ship was in dock, undergoing repairs. Day looked tired, but proud. Captain Song, Veln addressed him formally. Your actions saved this station, and everyone on it. You faced a weapon that should have destroyed you, and you found a way to win. The Council wishes to honor you and your crews. What followed was an hour of ceremony. Day and the captains of the 7 other ships received medals, honors, and titles. More importantly, they received something humans valued even more than medals. The Council established the Guardian Fleet, with those 8 ships as its founding vessels. When you repair the Harmony, Veln said, she will be the flagship of the new fleet. We will provide resources to build more ships, human designs, but with technology shared from across the Council. Together, we will find the lost children of the death worlds. After the ceremony, Juan met with Day privately in a small cafe on the station. It was a strange place, trying to provide food for dozens of species with completely different biochemistries. Juan had something that was supposed to be coffee. It was not quite right, but it was close. How's Sola? Juan asked. Day smiled. Angry I didn't die. Angry I almost died. Proud I didn't die. You know, the usual. He sipped his own approximation of coffee. She wants to come up here. Bring the kids. Says if I'm going to be flying around the galaxy, the family should see what that means. Will you let her? Try stopping her. Day laughed, but then his expression turned serious. Juan, are we ready for this? The Guardian thing. Finding other death world species. What if we mess it up? What if we end up like the species who quarantined Earth? Juan had thought about that a lot. We'll make mistakes, but we'll make them with good intentions. And we'll learn. That's what humans do. Right? We adapt. Over the next 6 months, the Guardian Initiative took shape. Earth sent more diplomats, scientists, and engineers. The Council provided facilities, training, and most importantly, knowledge. Young humans studied alongside aliens, learning about the vast diversity of galactic life. Yuna led the Xenobiology Division, cataloging death world species and preparing first contact protocols. She worked with a team that included beings from 24 different species. Her assistant was Krellet, the Chirrut miner that Bin Kwok had saved during the rescue operation. Bin himself had become a legend. The engineer who took rocks on his back to save an alien had recovered fully. Now he traveled between Council worlds, teaching emergency response procedures. Everywhere he went, beings wanted to meet the human who embodied Earth's protective instinct. It's embarrassing, Bin told Juan during one of his visits to the station. I just did what anyone would do. No, Juan corrected gently. You did what any human would do. That's different. And that difference is what makes us valuable to the galaxy. The first Guardian mission launched 4 months after the satellite incident. The target was a world with gravity 1.5 times Earth standard, with frequent volcanic activity and an atmosphere rich in sulfur compounds. Council probes had detected tool use and primitive structures. Day commanded the mission from the Harmony, now rebuilt and upgraded with Council technology. But the ship still looked human. Still felt human. It was important to maintain that identity. Juan went along as the diplomatic representative, with Yuna as the xenobiology specialist. As they dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system, Juan felt his heart race. This was it. Humanity's first attempt at guided first contact. Sensors detect settlements, Rena reported from her station. Population estimated at several million. Technology level is roughly equivalent to Earth's Bronze Age. The species looks reptilian, Yuna added, studying the probe data. Thick scales, probably for heat resistance. 4 limbs. Bipedal. Signs of social organization. Day looked at Juan. Your call, Ambassador. How do we approach? Juan thought about Earth's history. About the fear and wonder humans had always felt looking at the stars. About the countless stories of alien invasion and alien salvation that humanity had created. We land far from population centers, Juan decided. We make ourselves visible, but not threatening. We wait for them to come to us. We let them make the choice to meet us. They landed on a plateau, overlooking a valley where one of the larger settlements sprawled. The Harmony sat in plain view. Impossible to miss. And then, they waited. It took 3 days. On the 3rd day, a group of 30 natives climbed the plateau. They carried what looked like spears and shields, but they did not attack. They stopped 100 meters away and simply stared at the ship. Juan walked out alone, wearing no armor, carrying no weapons. Behind him, the Harmony's crew watched nervously. He could hear Day muttering about how this was a terrible idea, but Juan remembered his own first meeting with the Council. The fear, the confusion. He wanted these beings to see not a threat, but a friend. He stopped halfway between the ship and the natives. He held up his hands, palms open and empty. Then he sat down on the ground, making himself smaller, less threatening. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, one of the natives stepped forward. It was larger than the others, with darker scales. A leader, probably. It approached slowly, carefully. When it was 5 meters away, it stopped. Its eyes, golden and intelligent, studied Juan. Then, it sat down too. Juan smiled. He pointed at himself. Juan. The native tilted its head. Then, it pointed at itself. The translator struggled with the sound, but it came through as something like wrath. Over the next few weeks, contact became communication. The natives were curious but cautious. They were survivors, like humans. Their world had taught them to be careful, but they were also social, cooperative, willing to learn. They remind me of early humans, Yuna said one evening, as she and Juan watched the natives examining trade goods from Earth. Smart, adaptable, working together to survive. Give them 10,000 years, and they'd probably reach space on their own. But they don't have to wait 10,000 years, Juan replied. We can help. Carefully. Without overwhelming them. Just opening doors. When the Harmony left 2 months later, they left behind a small team of linguists and scientists, and they left with a promise. Humans would return. The natives were not alone anymore. Back at the council station, Juan filed his report. It was detailed, honest about the challenges and uncertainties, but it was also hopeful. First contact successful, he concluded. Species designation. Rothkind. after their name for themselves. Recommend continued low-level contact, with full first contact protocols to begin within 50 years, once we have better understanding of their culture. High Arbiter Veln read the report with approval. You did well. You showed them strength without domination, friendship without interference. This is the balance we need. Ride. 1. Friend. Ride. 1. Ride. 1. Ride. 1. But Kirina looked worried. 1 down. 46 death worlds to go within our immediate area. And that's just the beginning. The progenitor database suggests thousands more throughout the galaxy. Then we'll need more ships, Day said. He was attending the meeting via holocall from the Harmony. More crew, more training. Earth is already building, Juan reported. 6 new vessels, Guardian class. Designed specifically for long-term exploration and first contact missions. And we're not just recruiting military anymore. We need anthropologists, linguists, doctors, teachers. Elder Thane pulsed with satisfaction. The children of Hell 3 are becoming what the progenitors hoped. Not conquerors, but shepherds. Not rulers, but guides. That night, Juan stood at an observation window, looking out at the stars. Yuna joined him, 2 cups of actual Earth coffee in her hands. The council had finally figured out how to make it properly. Thinking about home? She asked. Thinking about homes, Juan corrected. Earth is home. But now we have a galaxy full of worlds that need friends. Species that need someone who understands what it's like to come from hell and reach for heaven. It's a big responsibility. Yeah. Juan sipped his coffee. But we're humans. We carried fire out of Africa. We crossed oceans in wooden boats. We touched the moon with rockets we weren't sure would work. Big responsibilities are kind of our thing. Yuna laughed. The galaxy has no idea what it's gotten itself into. Oh, I think they're starting to figure it out. Below them, in the docks, work crews, both human and alien, labored on the Guardian fleet vessels. Earth's new ships were taking shape, and somewhere out in the dark, on worlds of fire and ice and crushing gravity, species struggled and survived and dreamed of stars. The children of Hell 3 were going to find them. And when they did, those species would learn what humanity had learned. You are not alone. You are not mistakes. You are exactly what the universe needs. The age of Guardians had begun. 5 years passed. Juan stood on the observation deck of the Guardian Station, a massive facility orbiting Earth. Below, the blue planet turned slowly, peaceful and beautiful. It was hard to believe this world had once been called Hell, had been quarantined and feared. Now it was the heart of the Guardian Initiative, training center for dozens of species, home to the academy where young beings from across the galaxy came to learn. Dad, you're going to be late. He turned to see Nari, now 17, wearing the gray uniform of a Guardian cadet. She had grown tall, strong, confident. Her eyes held the determination that seemed to run in the family. Late for what? Your speech, the graduation ceremony. Dad, you're the keynote speaker. Did you forget? He had not forgotten. He had been thinking about what to say for weeks. How do you summarize 5 years of change, of growth, of learning? The ceremony was held in the main auditorium, a space large enough to hold 3,000 beings. Graduates from 24 species filled the seats, all wearing the same uniform regardless of their physiology. They had spent 4 years learning together, training together, becoming something new. Juan took the podium and looked out at the young faces. Human, Chirik, Falori, Ertol, and others, including 20 graduates from death worlds humanity had contacted over the past 5 years. Species that, 5 years ago, did not know other intelligent life existed. 5 years ago, Juan began, I stood in front of the Galactic Council and told them about Earth. I thought I was introducing humanity to the galaxy. I was wrong. I was introducing one family member to the rest of the family. We were never alone. We just did not know it yet. He paused, gathering his thoughts. The progenitors called Earth Hell 3, the third hell. They made our world deliberately harsh, deliberately challenging. For 300,000 years, life on Earth survived by adapting, by cooperating, by refusing to give up. That experience shaped us. It made us who we are. Some of the Death World graduates nodded. They understood. Their own worlds had been crucibles too. But here is what I have learned in 5 years of meeting other species from other harsh worlds. Earth was not unique. Hell is not one place. It is thousands of places, each one forging survivors, each one creating beings who understand struggle and persistence and hope. On the front row sat graduates from the Rothkind world, their scales now decorated with guardian insignias. Next to them sat beings from a high-gravity world, where every movement was an effort. Behind them, creatures adapted to toxic atmospheres that would kill most species. You graduates represent something unprecedented, Juan continued. You are the first generation raised, knowing that the galaxy is not a place of isolation, but of connection. You are the first generation trained to find and protect emerging species. You are the guardians. Not because of your weapons or your ships, but because of your empathy. Because you understand what it means to struggle. He looked at Nari, felt pride swell in his chest. My daughter is among you. She was born after first contact, raised in a galaxy that knew about humanity's origin. She chose to be here. To be a guardian. Not because I asked her to, but because she believes in the mission. Many of you have similar stories. You chose this path. The auditorium was silent, attentive. In 5 years, the Guardian Initiative has made contact with 37 Deathworld species, 37 civilizations that were alone, afraid, wondering if they were the only intelligent life in the universe. We showed them they were not alone. We offered friendship without domination, knowledge without control. Some accepted immediately. Some are still deciding. All of them now know they have friends in the stars. Juan's voice grew stronger. But the work is not done. The progenitor database lists thousands more death worlds. Some may have intelligent life. Some may need protection from natural disasters or hostile species. Some may just need to know. Someone cares. You, the graduates of this class, will be the ones to find them. You will be the ones to say, "We see you. We recognize you. We are here to help." He gestured to the assembled species. Look around you. 5 years ago, most of you did not know the others existed. Now you have trained together, studied together, become friends. This is the future. Not human, not Chirik, not Falori, but Guardian, united by purpose, by compassion, by the understanding that strength exists to protect, not to dominate. The speech ended with applause that shook the auditorium. Afterward, Juan stood with other dignitaries as graduates filed past to receive their assignments. Nari approached with her squad. 10 young beings, all different species, all wearing the same proud expression. Dad, we got our assignment. The Perseverance. Captain assigned. Cadet Nari Kim. Juan blinked. Captain? You're graduating as a captain? It's a small ship, Nari said, but she was grinning. Scout class. But yes, my own command. We ship out in 2 weeks. There's a world in Sector 773, high-pressure atmosphere, extreme weather. Council probes detected structures. We're going to make first contact. Fear and pride warred in Juan's heart. His little girl, commanding a ship, traveling to unknown worlds. But she was not a little girl anymore. She was a guardian. Your mother is going to have opinions about this, he said. Mom already knows. She helped me prepare my command certification. Nari's smile softened. Dad, this is what you and Captain Day and everyone else fought for. The chance for species like us to reach out instead of being feared. I'm going to make you proud. You already do. 2 weeks later, the Perseverance launched. It was a small vessel, designed for long-range scouting with a crew of 30. Nari stood on the bridge, surrounded by her diverse crew, and felt the weight of responsibility and excitement. All systems green, her engineering officer reported. It was a human named Bin, nephew of the famous engineer. Ready for jump on your command, Captain. Take us out, Nari ordered. Destination. Sector 7-7-3. Let's go say hello. The ship jumped, and Earth fell away behind them. On the Guardian station, Juan watched the departure through the observation windows. Yuna stood beside him, her hand in his. She'll be fine, Yuna said. She's trained for this, and she has a good crew. I know. Juan did know, but that did not make it easier to watch his daughter jump into the unknown. Did we do the right thing? Setting up this whole system, sending young beings to potentially dangerous worlds? Yes, Yuna said firmly, because the alternative is those species staying alone, isolated, afraid. We give them hope. We give them connection. That's worth the risk. High Arbiter Veln arrived, his serpentine form moving gracefully. Ambassador Kim, I wanted to tell you personally. The Council voted this morning. The Guardian Initiative is being expanded. We are allocating resources to build 50 new ships, to train 5,000 new Guardians over the next decade. What started as humanity's project has become the galaxy's priority. Juan felt the magnitude of that. 50 ships, 5,000 Guardians. And that is just the beginning, Veln continued. Some of the species you contacted 5 years ago are now sending their own young to train as Guardians. The Rothkind, for example, they want to help find others like themselves. This is becoming something beautiful. It was beautiful. Messy. Over the next 5 years, the galaxy transformed. The Guardian fleet grew from 8 ships to 60. Nari distinguished herself, making contact with a dozen species, each time approaching with patience and respect. Her crew became famous for their ability to adapt, to learn, to build trust. Bin Kwok retired from active rescue work and became the director of the Guardian Academy. Under his leadership, the curriculum expanded to include not just technical skills, but philosophy, ethics, and cultural studies. He insisted that every Guardian understand the weight of their responsibility. Dae Song became an admiral, commanding the Guardian fleet. But he still flew missions personally, saying he needed to remember what the work actually felt like. His wife Sola joined him on the flagship Indomitable, working as the diplomatic liaison. Together they made a formidable team. Yuna's xenobiology division cataloged over 200 Deathworld species, creating a vast database of evolutionary adaptations and survival strategies. She wrote papers with alien scientists, taught classes with beings from dozens of worlds, and helped establish protocols for protecting endangered species. And Juan remained Earth's ambassador to the Council, but his real work happened in a small office where he met with representatives from newly contacted species. He welcomed them, listened to their concerns, and helped them navigate the complexity of galactic civilization. On the 10th anniversary of First Contact, the Council held a special ceremony. Every member species attended, along with representatives from all the Deathworld species humanity had contacted. Elder Thane, now very old but still sharp, addressed the assembly. 10 years ago, we discovered that the world we called Hell 3 had produced intelligent life. We were terrified. We thought survivors from such a harsh world would be conquerors, destroyers. We could not have been more wrong. The assembly listened in respectful silence. Humanity showed us that survivors do not become conquerors. They become protectors. Because they understand suffering, they work to prevent it. Because they know struggle, they help others through it. Because they evolved in hell, they are determined to build heaven for everyone else. Thane's telepathic voice grew warm with emotion. But humanity did not keep this mission to themselves. They shared it. They taught it. They built an organization that includes all of us. Today, the Guardian Initiative has members from 87 species. Guardians patrol 1,000 systems. We have contacted 153 Deathworld civilizations, and every single one has been welcomed with friendship and respect. Images played on the screens around the chamber. Guardians working with primitive civilizations, teaching sustainable farming. Guardians evacuating populations from natural disasters. Guardians mediating disputes between species. Guardians simply sitting with scared young beings from harsh worlds, telling them they were not alone. The progenitors created the Hell Worlds as an experiment, Thane concluded. They wanted to know if beings evolved from maximum adversity could still choose kindness. The answer is yes. Not just humanity, but all the Deathworld species, all the survivors, all the beings who know what it means to fight for every breath and still have compassion left for others. Juan stood to receive an award, but he deflected it. This is not about humanity. This is about all of us. Every species that evolved on harsh worlds, every being that learned to adapt and survive and protect. We are all guardians. We are all children of crucibles. And together, we will make sure no one ever has to face the darkness alone. That night, on Earth, in a small house in a quiet city, Juan sat with his family. Nari was on leave from her ship. Sola and Day had come down from orbit. Bin and his family were there, along with Yuna and several alien friends who had become like family. They ate dinner together, telling stories and laughing. It was simple, ordinary, perfect. Later, as the guests departed and the house grew quiet, Juan stood in the backyard and looked up at the stars. So many stars, so many worlds, so many species waiting to be found, to be welcomed, to be told they mattered. Nari joined him, her shoulder touching his. The Perseverance ships out again next week. There's a world with silicon-based life. We're not even sure how to communicate with them yet, but we're going to try. Be careful. Always. She smiled. Dad, do you ever think about what would have happened if the Council had voted to destroy Earth? If they had been too afraid to give us a chance? Juan had thought about it. Many times. We got lucky. We had advocates like Kirina and Thane. We had a test that let us prove ourselves. Not every species gets that chance. That's why we do this. Nari said. So other species get chances. So fear doesn't win. So the galaxy stays open to possibility. They stood together in comfortable silence. Father and daughter, looking at a sky full of possibility. The Council had called Earth Hell 3. The third hell. They had been right. Earth was harsh, unforgiving. A crucible that forged survivors. But what the Council had not understood was that hell makes heroes. Struggle creates strength, and beings who survive the worst can become the best. Humanity had passed the test. But more importantly, humanity had shared the answer. They had shown the galaxy that Deathworld species were not threats. They were gifts. They were guardians who simply did not know how to quit. 300,000 years ago, the progenitors had seeded Earth with life and set it in motion. They had hoped for survivors who could be more than conquerors. They had gotten their wish. And across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, young beings looked up at their own harsh skies and dreamed of stars. They did not know it yet, but somewhere in that vast darkness, guardians were coming, friends who understood, protectors who cared. The children of Hell 3 had found their purpose, and the legacy would continue, generation after generation, species after species, until every being in the galaxy knew one simple truth. You are not alone. You are not a mistake. You are exactly what the universe needs. The age of guardians had begun. And it would never end.